He's kind of the reason that we're all here. Dr. Joe Wallach is the one that trained me. I believe Ben met him about 20 years ago. I was introduced about 5 years ago, and we were carrying on this message. We all have a little bit of a different form of it, but it's the same basis. And sometimes we can get lost when Ben's speaking because he's saying K2 and vitamin C and the 90 essential nutrients, and that comes from him. So just to introduce Dr. Joe Wallach, he's known as a doctor, but he started out as a veterinarian with a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Field Crops. He got his doctorate in veterinary medicine back in 1964. And this is important because this is where the information comes from. The information comes from animals. We eliminated every disease that you can name and 10 times more that many that you can't name in animals. We eliminated one. Every birth defect, every disease, autoimmune disease, cancer, we can give these things to animals very easily and we can take them away very easily. And this was documented by him because he wasn't really a practicing veterinarian. He was a comparative pathologist, which is what his postdoc was in. And it wasn't until later that he became a doctor because in 1977 he discovered the cause, cure, and prevention of cystic fibrosis and muscular dystrophy. That was in rhesus monkeys working for a NASA project at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was promptly fired for it when he came out and said, I can reproduce this model, meaning AKA it's not a genetic disease found only in humans. And this was actually publicized around the world when he came out and said that we have an animal model for cystic fibrosis. It was a very positive thing. Everybody was excited that now we had an animal model we could study this in. Very difficult to study things purely in humans. So when we have an animal model, great, that's progress. But then he came and said, I can reproduce this, AKA it's a nutritional deficiency of the embryo. And he was promptly fired for that, and that led him to become a naturopathic doctor. He's been licensed over 35 years in California and Oregon, and he's been spreading this message, and this is how it filters down because he can't be here everywhere at once. So it's not much of a slideshow, it's just here to kind of keep me on track and keep it topical, right? So this is the major difference in that what Ben was talking about. Most of us are really only learning this world. We have a problem, we go to a doctor, but it's never broken down to us in school that what we're being offered in their toolbox is only, nothing else, only tests, drugs, and surgeries, operating on the principle of reductionism. Right, Ben was talking about they're operating for the top level. I mean, they're looking at cells, they're looking at organs. We treat the whole person, holism. Every other school of medicine other than allopathic medical doctors practice holism. Every single one, from the bush shamans to acupuncture, massage, everything. That's all holism. We treat the human being under the holistic principle that the human body knows how to fix itself. It's trying to fix itself. We just have to provide the right environment for it. So Ben talked a lot about the environment that we can by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. That's part of it. The other part is feeding the micronutrients that we actually need and staying away from the bad things that screw it up, bad foods. So this could include anything. It could include nutrition, herbal medicine, that's more like herbs and tinctures and stuff like that, even homeopathic remedies that can fall into there. Mostly not necessary, by the way. We have a problem and a lot of us think that we need a medicine. In most cases, that's not the case, where it's a nutritional problem. And usually, I try and do it with no medicine at all. And if you give somebody all the nutrients and you instruct them to avoid all the bad foods, 9 out of 10 times they just get better. It's probably more than that, it's probably 95 out of 100 times. They just get better. And you don't ever need to reach into the herbal toolbox, although there's some very, very powerful things in there if you do need it. Then you can use energy, you can address energy. There's energy healing, and there's also removing radiation stress. We can talk a little bit about that. And then using the mind, body, and soul. We're not just, a lot of people think that the 90 essential nutrients is a magic pill that you can just take and get better. It doesn't work like that. You need to activate the healing process through your mind, your body, and your soul. It all works together. So this is why research sucks, and it's, we don't know this. Right? We're not taught, like you see a news release on the news, a brand new study tells us this. Brand new study tells us nothing. Because there is a lack of control group, an utter lack of control group, which is why the information is more valuable in animals, by the way. This is why we actually know things. We know facts from animals. You'll never get 100% correlation in a human study. You'll never say this causes cancer 100% of the time, this eliminates cancer 100% of the time. It can't work like that because there's too many variables in humans. In animal research, and again, this is why Dr. Wallach's thing was so valuable, because we can give them everything they need. We can give them 89 essential nutrients, take away one, and show you the result, right? And you can't do that with humans. Humans never come in with one deficiency and never come in with one problem. And they also have that mind, body, soul thing that animals don't have, right? Nobody comes in with a physical problem without also having a mental problem as well, corresponding with it. And they have to be addressed together. So research sucks because there's no control group, and animal research, even I read a book recently, animal research was at the bottom of the list of what we want to look for information. Meanwhile, for us, it should be the top of the list, absolute top of the list. These double-blind studies in humans don't tell us much. Because the limited scope in the control groups, this means they're not done for enough time, and if you're not using an organism from birth to death, we don't have a control group, right? People ask us all the time, how long are you supposed to live on longevity? We don't know. Dr. Wallach's still alive. We're all still alive. We're not going to know until enough of us have lived, born on it, and died on it. Then we'll have our control group. Same with veganism, carnivorism, any other thing that you want to talk about with humans. We don't have this. We don't have the scope. It's not available. Some studies have been carried out for 20 years or more. It's great. It tells us certain things, but very generally, there's a very limited scope involved, and that's especially because of the short term. Research has to be paid for. A researcher has to live through the whole thing, or it has to be passed down, you know? So this is why you don't believe the newspaper articles, right? So what works? We know what works. It's actually very, very simple. The top of the list is eliminating the things that cause a lot of the problems. About half of what people come in with is a digestive problem, or related to a digestive problem, or rooted in a digestive problem. And this is why you see remarkable benefits just with fasting alone, just with eliminating foods. If you don't know what the problem food is, stop eating food, you stop the toxicity on the body, or the mechanical interference somehow. So that, on top of our list is gluten, by the way, wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And I usually expand that and tell people to pretend that they're a celiac. Whether they are or not, don't care. If you act like a celiac, you'll get a remarkable benefit, period, no matter what. And a lot of people will say, try it for 2 weeks is our basic advice. Going completely gluten-free for 14 days, and on the 15th day, eating gluten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and seeing how you feel. Every single person now then believes it at that point. At least, whether they choose to or not, they know that it's harming their body by purging it and then reintroducing it. So the gluten's the top of the list. Ben mentioned being very, very careful with oils. People ask us often, can I consume oil? I say, yes, you can consume olive oil if you press it on your counter and consume it within 24 hours, cold, and you don't add any heat to it. That's how careful we'd recommend being with it, and generally we'd recommend not at all. As Ben said, you can put butter on your steamed vegetables or something and it has the same effect of bringing out the nutritional value of it, increasing the nutritional value of the vegetables themselves. We also have encapsulated oils right here, and talking about Ultimate EFA, that's a product. People wonder, how can you put it in a capsule? Some companies, on the shelf in America, there's not one that I am aware of. Many of them sell only to physicians, but they produce their capsules and they inject them with nitrogen so that oxygen can't permeate the membrane. It's a very complicated process, and it explains the price difference between a $10 omega-3 krill oil thing and a $35 one from us. Right? It's because it's prevented from oxidation. Processed meats and well-done red meat, that's not even from our camp. That's kind of widely established now that processed meat contributes very directly to cancers, especially colorectal cancers. And this is basically just free radical damage. These are all different ways of getting free radical damage. The gluten screws up the intestines, by the way, that's why it's on the list. Whether you're a celiac or not and have an allergic reaction to it or not, it still physically, mechanically damages the intestines. That's the organ where we absorb nutrients in. Especially some of these nutrients we're talking about, these long chain omegas, they're big molecules, they need to be absorbed in the intestine. The intestine needs to not be inflamed to do that. And if you inflame your intestine chronically over years, you can actually damage it and turn the intestines into scar tissue. You can't absorb much through scar tissue, right? And if we all remember from school, they teach us that the intestine's like an inverted shag carpet. It's got all these little finger-like villi things that expands the surface area. And they say the surface area of the intestine can stretch to the moon or something like that. And that's because that's what that does, it expands the surface area. So if these get damaged or turned into scar tissue, the surface area is decreased, the area for the nutrients to be absorbed is decreased. And this can cause inflammation all throughout the body. You see things, people come in with these like lupus rash on their face and stuff, all of that, all the skin problems can have something to do with an inflamed intestine or damaged intestine somehow. Gluten's not the only thing that can do it. People can be very sensitive to dairy, especially in America, and all kinds of other things that you find in processed foods, right? And we just generally recommend staying away from processed foods because there's so many things in there that can damage your intestine or inflame your intestine. Your body's very smart. It says, I don't want this, right? The inflammation is a good sign. It's a sign that your body's working properly. With well-done red meat, you just don't want to burn anything. But if you do cook meat too well done, you increase your risk of cancer dramatically. You increase the free radicals dramatically. If you burn any animal fat, again, it's dramatic. It's going to ultimately lower your lifespan. You can't take enough antioxidants to combat that. This free radical damage, by the way, free oxygen radical, this is the reason we need antioxidants. And these are the things that give us free radical damage. We also produce free radicals when we're digesting food. Right? This is another reason why fasting is beneficial to us, because our body, it's part of the waste, it's a waste product in digestion and producing free radicals. Even when we exercise is good for us, but we produce free radicals during that process, and it increases our nutrient needs, of course. And then carbonated drinks. This is a big one. There's a lot of controversy about this one. It seems obvious, we all knew intuitively that carbonated drinks weren't good for us, but people are still drinking seltzer water and champagne and whatever else. I don't know the chemical formula, I get called out for it sometimes. What's the chemical formula? Because it doesn't make sense to people that carbonated drinks are themselves acidic. And they don't understand why that can lower the stomach acid in our body. Our stomach acid is much stronger than carbonated drinks. It should be one of the strongest acids actually available. If you were to bite your finger off and swallow it, your body will be able to digest that to the bone in the stomach. That's how acidic it's supposed to be. And the carbonation lowers it or eliminates it completely. It's also why it relieves reflux in the short term, but reflux in the long term is caused by a lack of stomach acid. So one of our most important things is addressing stomach acid. In our world, we're trying to sell supplements. That's what we do, that's our business. I can't sell them supplements if they're avoiding salt. Or if they're drinking carbonated drinks every day, they're not gonna absorb it. They're wasting their time and money, and I'm not gonna get a result, I'm not gonna get repeat business, so we have to instruct them on this. Now, Dr. Glidden and Dr. Wallach will be generous on this point. They'll say that if you choose to drink a carbonated drink, drink it an hour before or an hour after a meal. I'm not that generous, we don't have time for this, right? Same with the oils, we tell no oils, right? Dr. Wallach hates gluten so much, he says no barley grass, even though barley grass hasn't developed gluten protein yet. For me, I say no carbonated drinks, they have zero value, get them out, get them off the market. These next things, the list can get more complicated, right? But if people just generally avoid gluten, oil, processed meat, well done red meat, that's gonna be their baseline of wellness. These other things, soy, I would say stay away from, but these aren't going to cause diseases themselves, right? That's why they're on the bottom of the list. You're not going to get a disease by consuming soy. It's going to be contributing damage, especially if it's not organic, because it's sprayed in pesticides. It's organic, so it can handle more pesticides, so you get a bigger pesticide load, especially when these things, corn and soy, are ground up and then used as a flour or a base for other non-gluten junk foods, right? Anything in a box basically is junk food. And a lot of times you look and this is what made it. Stay away from that. Peanuts is on the, a lot of people don't like that. Peanuts are on the list. Peanuts are on the list because they grow mold on them, and because, especially in America, the industry sucks at regulating it. They keep them often in these big old silos, roasting in the Missouri heat or whatever, and that's oxidizing them, one. Two, it's growing mold on it, aspergillus mold, which that mold produces a toxin called aflatoxin. That toxin causes liver cancer, right? So essentially anybody who died of liver cancer, our hypothesis is that they got exposed to that mold. It's the same mold as bread mold, it produces the same toxin. And that's what was killing all the bears in the world, by the way. Dr. Wallach, that's one of the cases that he jumped in and fixed. He switched them from moldy bread and peanuts to dog food, gluten-free dog food, and saved the bears around the world because they were all dying of liver cancer, and that stopped overnight. Switched them to dog food. It's not the only species he saved with dog food. Pandas and freshwater dolphins would be another one. Packaged food and sugar. We mentioned, in our world, we get a lot of people who are really, really educated on health coming to us, and they already kind of know about sugar. We should put more emphasis on sugar. We don't eat sugar. We don't cook. We do sometimes now because we're making a cookbook, and sometimes they call for sugar. You try making sugar-free, gluten-free cookies, don't bother, right? But very generally, stay away from sugar. It's going to do you a world of good. And when we're on our own, just eating, sugar doesn't exist in the kitchen at all, right? We have no use for it. We're only just trying to reproduce common recipes to show people that they can live without these other things and that they can cook without oil and without gluten. That's the main point of that. So what else works? Eating less works very generally. Most people are overeating too much. Talk about gluten damaging the intestine. If your intestines are full of stuff, nothing's getting through there to be absorbed. It's one major, major problem. There's a lot of people, especially vegans, they're really bad with this, that they're eating all the time. They're stuffed full of food. Like your body, this is a conveyor belt. And if the conveyor belt's loaded up, I mean, work's not getting done really. So even Denny's closes once a year to clean the kitchen. We recommend it daily if possible. Intermittent fasting is a very popular thing now. It's called the warrior diet. It goes by other names as well. It's basically just choosing an 8-hour window of your day to get your eating in, and the rest is clearing out the system, giving your body space to have room to absorb things. Eating better, obviously. Switching off bad foods to good foods, right? You can't just eliminate the bad foods, you gotta eat something else, and a lot of people make the mistake of going gluten-free and then buying gluten-free cookies. all the time, right? You need to eat better food, real food, whole food, fresh food, general rules, organic, general rules. And a lot of people will feel better just switching to organic, but they're not going to get over a health challenge fundamentally because it wasn't the GMO food that was causing the problem, it was contributing to the problem, and you've got to address as many of these things as possible. Drinking more water. A lot of people don't drink enough water. One of the first things that people say to us when we get them on a supplement program is I have to drink so much water to get all this stuff in because they're powders and you've got to mix them in waters, and it's part of the point. Just getting them to drink more water will actually benefit them even more. So we recommend waking up with a tall glass of water. I think Ben recommends like 3 or 4 glasses. Been doing that for a long time, love it. And again, a lot of people, they can be eating well or whatever, and they're causing a digestive problem because they're not drinking enough water. You need water to digest food, you need water to work properly. A lot of it. A gallon a day, roughly. Half a gallon to a gallon a day, could be more. If you're a big person, could be more. And drinking more water, we're talking about eliminating cravings earlier. One of the biggest things that we're craving is water. People eat food instead of drinking water. You can eliminate a lot of cravings just by drinking more water. We're big proponents of salt. And usually just salted water, like your body's craving water and salt, and then nutrients and food and whatever.
Filtered water.
Filtered water is extremely important. We don't recommend drinking tap water.
Right.
And that's another one of these kind of givens that for our audience, you know, they know about the water, they know about sugar, they know about basics for the most part. Yeah, filtered water. Nobody should be drinking tap water ever. We go to extreme lengths to drink clean water at all times. It's not the easiest on the road, but at least you can get distilled water or something. And we do recommend adding salt to distilled water, by the way. And yeah, so drinking more and drinking cleaner water, it's going to be great for you. Sleeping is one of the unspoken things. I've seen it. Like, we have people that are on all the products, they've done the food things, they've done all these other things, they've addressed the radiation, we got devices on them. And I'm like, why is this person not healing? And they're complaining about it still. How much do you sleep at night? And they're like, oh, I'm gonna sleep like 3 hours, and then I wake up and I talk to my daughter in Japan, and you have to sleep well, right? And this is a real thing. Sleep itself can actually help people heal. You heal when you're sleeping. And so if that's the missing piece, some people will feel phenomenal just by going to a sleep clinic and learning how to regulate their sleep better, or removing the phones and the electronics from their room and the lights from their room and just taking conscious control of their sleep. They can often feel better just from that. And that can be a big missing piece, because in our world, we need to get results or we don't have business, right? We are here to sell supplements. They're not going to stay on the supplements if they don't get the result, right? So if they're still eating pizza and drinking soda and whatever, they're not going to get the result. We tell them not to bother. Wait until you're ready so we can get a result and we can have you for a customer for life. If they're not sleeping well, we don't get a lifetime customer because it's not going to magically fix it. Insomnia at the bottom level is a mineral deficiency, by the way, the same minerals that are involved in muscle movements all over the place, all over the body. So usually someone that comes in with insomnia outright also has other problems as well. I had insomnia for 25 years also, and I had a muscle problem for 25 years also. I was born with it, so it's the same deficiency, and it was knocked out in 6 days flat, by the way, with supplementation properly. And this is what gets lost too in the whole, you take these nutrients, they're in product form, right? You take the right products, it knocks it out. These products have lots of nutrients in them, in the right doses, in the right forms. And I've actually seen at least 2 insomniacs fall asleep during our meeting because I gave them 1 serving of that product and they slept for the first time, essentially ever, properly. But belief, that's on there because it's extremely important. If you believe that what you're doing is good, chances are it'll help you regardless. And that goes for doing nothing at all, right? If you believe that doing nothing is something that's good and it's gonna help you with your health, AKA fasting or whatever, it does work partially through fasting, it works partially through placebo. If you think that something's bad for you, your body's not gonna respond well when you put it in. Your brain is very well connected to your body, and you need to drive this process, you need to drive this healing process, you need to make a conscious decision that says what I'm doing is going to make me feel better. And it will help you go in that direction. If you believe that something that's not going to work, it's probably not going to work, right? Not only will you be interfering on a physiological level, because your body's smart, but it's not. You can be overriding that there, but you could actually just deny results and stuff like that too. You could deny yourself the ability to do things properly because you don't believe in it, right? If you don't believe that going gluten-free has an amazing benefit, you're not going to be that disciplined in it, and you can't do any of this by accident. You can't supplement by accident, you can't buy products for people and force it in their body, you can't force someone to go gluten-free. This needs to be conscious, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. We're talking about avoiding oil and gluten. Good luck, right? It's tough out there. We had to go to 4 or 5 different restaurants yesterday to find one to eat at that didn't have oil available for us, that didn't have something without oil in it that we could eat, right? And you gotta be serious about it, because if you can make excuses every day. if you want. There's excuses available every single day for any of these things. Oh, I forgot to take my supplements. Oh, it's a birthday. It's always someone's birthday, right? There's always cake available. There's always a reason to not do this 1,000%. That takes discipline. That takes belief. Relaxing. Ben talked enough about relaxing. If you guys have a good foundation in that. If you do not relax, you will not heal, period. Right? If you do not relax, your body will not use the nutrients. You will still feel crappy. If you take time to just relax alone, that has healing benefits on its own. There's plenty of people who had some high-stress job, had some position that stopped them from being healthy. It wasn't so much to do with the food or the time. It was to do with them never being able to relax. And as soon as they could relax, they started to have a remarkable benefit. Mindfulness, you need to be connected to this. Some of this is repetitive, but like some of these trigger words can bring memories up. Maybe we've studied about mindfulness or something. Maybe we've read about it. And, we know that meditation is good for us. We know that deep breathing is good for us. We know that being conscious, the conscious controllers of our environment is good for us, and we just don't do it. Right? So sometimes just being reminded that being mindful, meditating, any of these things can be positive for us. Movement's extremely important. We don't move enough generally. Ben was talking about that. Movement is more important than exercise, in my opinion. A lot of times exercise is creating extra stress in the body, stress in the joints. You need more nutrients if you're beating your joints up, right? You need more joint nutrients, that kind of thing. You definitely need more electrolytes if you're exercising. You're burning through your reserves very, very quickly. But lymphatic exercises are a different category. Lymphatic exercises can be stimulated with massage, either from yourself or from someone else. There's many machines designed to do this, and they look gimmicky, like a little Dr. Ho machine. It gives little shocks to you. Well, it's amazing for lymphatic health. And lymphatic health is one of the more important things here. It's included in our 4 basic things that are usually going wrong. And low impact and low intensity means running is very high impact, you're beating your joints up. Bicycling or swimming is very low impact, because you're not beating the joints up. And low intensity, I do not personally believe that you need to run your heart. Your heart runs all the time, no matter what you do, your heart's always beating. I do not believe that it needs extra exercise. People don't share that opinion. Some people who are in our camp with the 90 essential nutrients and everything don't believe that. They believe that high intensity exercise is important. We will have to see that whole thing with the control group. We're going to have to see how long we all live, right? I don't think low intensity. I don't think high intensity is a good thing. I think we should be aiming for low intensity, low impact, and that way, weight training could be one of the best ones, in my opinion. And in accordance with some other lymphatic exercises, there are other ways to do this, by the way. The free ways are with a swing set or with a trampoline. And people have serious lymphatic problems. We're talking about autoimmune. We're talking about cystic acne. We're talking about cancer. Really, I personally don't believe that you can have cancer without having some kind of lymphatic issue. So something simple like buying a $70 trampoline, putting it in your mudroom, and bouncing up and down on it for 20 minutes a day. It can sound silly, but it can have tremendous benefits to the body. Just a little trampoline. You don't need to do backflips. You need to feel the whoosh, right? When you're driving fast in a car down a hill and you feel the whoosh, a roller coaster, you feel the whoosh, that's lymphatic energy moving all around your body. And there's machines designed to mimic that as well. One of them is called the Chi machine, CHI. We use this at our store in Windsor, Ontario. It's extremely effective. You can buy one for about $50 and have it in the house. And if you use that regularly, especially if you have a lymphatic problem, remember guys, also circulation problems are caused by blood sugar problems. Blood sugar problems are caused by digestive problems, etc. When you end up with a lymphatic problem, this is why diabetics need their legs cut off, right? This is the end of the line if it's a lymphatic problem. So if you can start addressing that, you can get rid of a lot of the gout symptoms and a lot of the blackness and the stagnation in the body. And the Chi machine is excellent for that. Next up would be a shaker machine. They're a bit more expensive, but they work phenomenally as well. And for kids also, especially we got a lot of kids with ADHD. They're running around the store and they're picking things off the shelf and their mom's saying, just calm down. And you stick them on a shaker machine and they're glued to it. And they're like stunned, glued to it. And it goes really fast. It can be really serious. If someone's about to get their leg cut off from diabetes, they won't be able to take it. They'll have to put them on a slow rumble. But you can put these freaking kids on its highest mode to the point where it's like you can't even see it moving and they're stuck to it. And they don't know why they like it. Same reason you can get them on minerals and give them a shot of minerals. They don't know why. Like kids' bodies absorb things better and seem to be more intuitive with their bodies. So that's one thing. So movement's important. This is what to buy. A lot of things are free, right? Avoiding bad foods is free. We talk a lot about salt. Salt is almost free. It's super cheap. It doesn't cost too much. You can move your lymphatic system for free. You can take mental control of your life for free, but you have to buy something. You have to buy the 90 essential nutrients. They're not in the food supply, period. 60 of those 90 essential nutrients are minerals, probably don't all know how important minerals are, and we probably don't know how serious the depletion of the soils are. Minerals don't get magically put back into the soil. We started doing something over 100 years ago that really screwed us up. We stopped using wood, and we switched to electricity. To get the electricity, we dammed 900,000, basically 1 million rivers in the world that we dammed. We built every city and every civilization on a floodplain for the very good reason that they're the only places that could sustain us for more than a couple of seasons, essentially. To hear about crop rotation and all that, that just prolongs the process. It's great to let crops fallow and let things grow on it for a season, let them die on it. That's nitrogen, put nitrogen back into it, but you're not getting anything extra. Non-gaseous, right? Plants can take things out of the air, put them in their bodies, and when they die on the ground, they get put back into the ground. They're not pulling minerals out of the air though. And every season, there's less and less minerals in the soil. So rotating the crops just prolongs the process.
You know why the great reef was dying?
Well, Dr. Wallach would say it's because they dammed
Yeah.
the river. That's his whole thing now he's going on. But they dammed the rivers, so they cut off the food supply for the oceans. It's going to be one component. I worked in marine science. There's also runoff problems, and there's also problems. They've done studies to show that people who are there on a reef studying the reef are rapidly contributing to the decline of that reef that they're studying, and just a little walking on it and disturbing it and whatever. But there's many things, and it is important. The whole world needs this mineral cycle. And when the rivers used to flood, they used to bring mud and silt with it every year. And the peasants who still do this will go in and rake it in when it comes in. They look forward to the rains and they'll rake it in. And that's the start of their season. We don't do that anymore. It's very important. Second thing they did was the wood, right? We stopped using wood because we started using electricity. To get the electricity, we dammed the rivers. But we also didn't know that those wood ashes were our primary source of plant-derived minerals. Humanity's primary source of plant-derived minerals is wood ash. No one knew because it was just a byproduct of that lifestyle. We needed wood for the cooking and for the heating. Those are plant-derived minerals. The plant sucks up the minerals out of the ground. When you burn away the carbon, you burn away the water, all you're left with is plant-derived minerals. When a mineral goes through a plant, it's converted magically into a form that's called colloidal, ionic. There's lots of different products that are marketed out there with using these words. And it's something that the plant does that we don't really fully, completely understand. Minerals are in the soil in rock form. They interact with the fungus interacts with the root. The plant sucks it up, changes its form, suddenly into the form that we as vertebrates need. It's activated, it's electrical. This is what we run on. And a lot of those minerals are just cofactors. We're not even built with them or anything. They're just used as reactive agents with the vitamins and with proteins and the combustion of digestion. And they're involved in all these processes. This is why we need to buy this, right? Because people say, well, can I just use wood ash? First of all, you're 20, 30, 40 years behind, right? You need to increase the dose. Second of all, you're not guaranteed that the plant actually grew on soil that has minerals in it, right? One very important mineral for human health, selenium. We know that a lot of America has 0 selenium in the soil, right? So you get 89 essential nutrients, you're gonna die of a selenium deficiency, and that's no good. We're smarter than this, we can cover our bases. It's done in product form. We use, by the way, it's an ancient deposit of plant-derived minerals. It's called humic shale. It means it was a forest that grew in the sea. Kelp forest, now it's on top of a mountain in Utah. We've got 100 cubic miles of it. We have to actually, we can get it at its saturation point, which means the most molecules in the amount of water that it can handle. We have to dilute it because at its maximum strength, it'll burn your face off. It'll actually hurt. So we need to take it down to about half of that before we can serve it to human beings. The other 30, the vitamins, the amino acids, and the essential fatty acids, plants do make those. In theory, you can get those from food. You're gonna be hard pressed to do it, especially if you look in the health world. They're like, mangoes are good for this, and blueberries are good for this. You're gonna be buying all these different foods. You're gonna be eating 40 different foods every day to try and get a basic spread of nutrients, and it's probably still gonna come short because the minerals aren't there as the cofactor for all these things. Most people don't come to us with vitamin deficiencies, they come to us with mineral deficiencies. So on top of that, the additional support, this falls in the category of antioxidants. Some essential nutrients are antioxidants themselves, like vitamin C, vitamin E, and selenium. But there's also all these other, you could name 1,000 of them in this room. We could come up with a list of 1,000 antioxidants that are plant compounds, sort of like vitamins, that can help us a lot. We need a lot of antioxidants. It's one of the things, one of the formula for longevity and health is a ton of antioxidants. This could also fall in herbs like colloidal silver, diatomaceous earth for digestive support, many other things. But you have to buy that. They don't come in the food supply. Water filter needs to be bought. We talked about that earlier. Cannot rely on the water supply, no matter where we are. There is no municipal water supply in the entire world that is clean and safe, in my opinion. unless they're a small municipality on a well, and that well is tested to be clean, and usually it's not. And then detox. You need to buy things for detox. There's detox kits, there's specific nutrients and herbal concoctions and plants that are set, you need to juice them. You need to purchase that and do that specifically, because detox is a big component of this as well. We run hair analysis at our store in Windsor. I've run enough of them to know that basically no matter who they are, if they're coming to me, I would bet that they have a parasite in them, some kind of yeast, mold, fungus, worms, bacteria, virus. I'll just bet it. I'm gonna get my money back, right? Because 1 out of 100 or less has no parasites in them. I've only actually seen 2 human beings scanned that did not have a parasite living in them. I was one of them. And then I picked up a parasite after that and had to do a detox, right? So it is that important. Heavy metal detox, like there's heavy metals in people, same thing. Scanned enough people to know that people are full of toxins that they can't expel. So they don't have these nutrients, digestive system's screwed up, the body's busy, digestion, however you want to explain it, it's not getting purged out. So there are things in nature and nutrients that can help your body purge that out. Stress is extremely important. We got to talk about it just a little bit. Ben talked about it quite a lot. But this can actually completely interfere with the healing process no matter what. This psychosocial, these are things that are going on in your life that are beyond nutrition too. There's some people who are starving, they're poor. That's something that needs to be handled. If you're stressed chronically about anything, kids acting up in school, whatever it is, if you're not in control of that stress, you won't heal. You won't sleep properly, you won't heal. You won't use nutrients properly. Nutrition and toxicity, a lack of good nutrients, or toxic foods, this causes stress on the body itself, increases your nutrient need, increases the problem, whatever the problem is. It's your environment as well. We've got some little points about this. Yeah, so your mindset, like a lot of people don't have the healing mindset, they have a victim mindset, right? They don't have an abundance mindset, they have a scarcity mindset. And you're gonna pay for your supplements if you have a scarcity mindset, this kind of thing. This needs to be controlled. These are just key words here. They don't necessarily go in any direct order, but your upbringing. A lot of people are raised by doctors and we'll never get through to them because they've got health problems and they're put on drugs and they believe that's the right way because that's their upbringing. They need to physically, mentally break that before they're going to heal because we can't tell them anything different than they believe. You need to change your beliefs yourself. Therapy might be useful for multiple reasons, helping you get over these diseases of attitude that can prevent progress. You wouldn't believe how many people we deal with, by the way, but that's their problem. It's diseases of attitude is a problem. A nutrient problem is a very easy problem to fix. Someone comes in with a zinc deficiency, you give them zinc, right? But if they have some mental thing stopping them from incorporating that into their routine or stopping the bad foods or whatever, those diseases of attitude will completely wreck their progress. So a lot of times we need to deal with people on a practitioner level. We're dealing with their attitude more than their physical. It's so easy for us to say what to do. Drink more water, sleep better, take all the nutrients, avoid all the bad foods, have a nice day, right? But it's not that simple because of those diseases of attitude. A lot of people have crappy jobs or school or something that's stressing them out. That's not our business, but it is our business, right? If we're here to help them, at the very least, we need to encourage them that you can do better in life, you can take control of it. And the same thing, money. You don't believe how many people think that they can't afford to be healthy. And it's just not true. We can't afford not to be healthy, right? It doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter who you are. These homeless people outside, they'd be better off for nutrition. They'd be better off consciously taking control of their health and their life, and hopefully they can get their way out of it. And a lot of us know that money's an illusion anyways, and we follow the rules of gold, and we'll have enough money for our supplements, basically. Families can hold people back. Horror stories where families interfere with somebody's healing process in some way, and they'll let them get to that. And there's a lot of people as well, they're in that victim mentality, like, I can't go gluten-free, my parents cook with gluten. You need to take control, right? You take control of your environment, it starts with your mindset no matter what. Same thing, relationships, crappy relationship. You can see somebody's health fall apart if they're in a crappy relationship and they're caught up in that bad breakup or divorce or something like that. Whatever health problem that they have will get worse. So health problems here, I put this in here. Buddhism talks about something called the second arrow, right? The first arrow is the pain, and the second arrow is your mental fixation on the pain, right? You get a diagnosis, that's one arrow. You stress out about it, and it's gonna affect my work, my relationship, that's the second arrow. A lot of people are dealing more with the second arrow than with the first arrow. The first arrow is very straightforward. You got a calcium deficiency. You gotta stop eating bread. Right? The second arrow is, can I really do this? And can I pay for this? And what's my family gonna think about this? Is my wife gonna do this with me? Second arrow, stress, nonsense. It'll get in the way of their healing. And a lot of that's just a roundabout way to just get control of your head. And if I could go on longer about it, I would. Stress on the body, lack of nutrients in general. Bad foods, again, that list. Gluten, oils, deep fried food, processed meat, well done red meat, The list can go on and on and on and on with preservatives and all these kind of fake sugars and stuff like that. Too much food, again, it's one of the biggest ones. People's bodies are loaded up. We've been making all these cooking videos, and we were eating way too much food. Both of our bodies reacted horribly to it. Good food, right? The best food that we can manage, organic, putting it together in great ways. But we're used to eating once a day. And as soon as we switched from that, both of our healths suffered. We went back recently to one a day. I feel phenomenal. In a matter of days, it can happen that quickly. Chemicals and products, a lot of people don't realize. They're eating well, supplementing, and they're going and they're using Axe body wash, right? We're spraying aerosols on themselves and all these kinds of toxic things that can affect the body at such a deep level where it's really actually interfering with its basic processes in dealing with nutrients and oxygen, expelling toxins. Toxic overload can screw the body up multiple ways. Accumulates in the liver, as Dr. Taylor will probably talk about. Your liver is one of your most important organs. It has a lot to do with how you digest food. Almost all disease can be traced back to a digestive problem in some way, some level. These environmental stresses, these are things you can't really do anything about, but you still need to deal with them. There's a lot of people who are dealing with what they call PTSD. In our world, PTSD doesn't exist. At the bottom line, it's a mineral deficiency. Well, if they're not able to handle that correctly, or whatever, the nutrition's off, anything, people could be stressing themselves to death just with this. And we can't control this. We do have to separate what we can control and what we can't. This is something that we can control, and it's worth mentioning. I have quite a large audience on radiation as well as nutrition. It's another account. Those accounts, by the way, are available on those business cards over there on the table. And so radiation exposure, the reason I was learned about this, because I was asked to go and help open that store in Windsor, Ontario, and they sold EMF devices, anti-radiation devices. And I didn't know anything about anti-radiation. But since Mike, the guy who opened it, he knows that I read books. I buy all the books on Amazon that are about radiation. I learned a lot, but I also saw a lot while I was there. And I've seen more extreme healing by addressing radiation because it's faster. I've seen more extreme healing with that than with nutrition. Because I can give you this nutritional advice. You gotta wait 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 90 days, 6 months sometimes before the body regenerates itself enough where the person's like, oh, I feel amazing now, right? Sometimes we can get grandmas dancing on the table in 3 weeks, but not less than that, right? Not 5 minutes. And by getting rid of the radiation stress, there's multiple ways to do that. By getting rid of the stress on a human being, we've had people get out of wheelchairs who've been there for 15 years. Very dramatic things. We filmed a lot of them. People have called us liars and said we paid them to act, stuff like that. We've had people get off lupus medication. Lupus is said to be an autoimmune disease. In our world, it's a nutritional deficiency exacerbated by a digestive problem, probably even caused directly by the digestive problem. But that takes a while to reverse. Where you can get somebody off medication in under a week, this is phenomenal, it's amazing. And I explain this because the radiation stress would be one of the biggest stresses in our environment because it constricts our blood vessels. If anybody asks me on the Towers account, cell phone tower account, people ask, how do I see what radiation does? Or do you have any evidence, or do you have any papers or whatever that will show this? I say, look at live blood analysis. Anybody can go look at live blood analysis, or you can have it done to yourself, and you can see within seconds the effect that radiation has on the blood. The blood transports nutrients around. It transports oxygen around. It gets rid of toxins and waste. We're selling nutrients again. If we're putting those nutrients into a body where the blood vessels are all crinkled up, those nutrients are not being delivered to the cells. They're not going to get a result. And this is, in my opinion, why we can get such crazy, dramatic results by reducing the radiation stress. Because now the blood vessels, they're free, and now they can just move. Just that bare fact of moving oxygen around properly, whatever nutrients are in the food, the body's going to rush to get them into the cells, and people can get out of wheelchairs. And people who walked in shaking with MS on crutches can walk out with their crutches on their back with a confident stance, and it's absolutely amazing, and it's something that you have to see for yourself. And if you're involved in healing in any way, you need to know about this. Because everybody's got a phone in their pocket, you shouldn't, right? Everybody's got Wi-Fi in their house 24 hours, they shouldn't, should turn it off. Right? You should never put your phone to your body, you should never put your phone to your head. These are some of the basics. And on that account, Transcend Towers, I talk a lot about this every day, basically, because people don't know these basic strategies, and they don't know that one of the biggest causes of harm for them is in their pocket, right? And this is the kids too, is even more phenomenal and ridiculous results with children by removing the radiation stress immediately. By the way, cancer to all kinds of things. Dogs, we use these on dogs. Dogs come in with golf ball size, baseball size tumors all over them. You can begin to recede those immediately. You can begin to push a dog towards health just as fast as you can begin to push a human towards health. In fact, it's easier with dogs because they're not on prescription drugs. They don't drink soda, right? They don't go out and eat burgers and stuff like that. It's very controlled. So when you address one thing, you can see the results amazing immediately. Ways to do this: minimize exposure is the first way, right? Get the phone off the body. Put a cage around your Wi-Fi maybe, because it's probably pumping out more power than it needs to. You have a smart meter, call the company. I don't know if Colorado is one of the states that allows you to transition back to an analog. They will do that for free if that is the case. If not, in our house, we put a freaking foil covering around it and then a bookshelf on top of it. It's the best we could do, but it does reduce the exposure dramatically. And if you got your favorite chair behind that wall where that smart meter is, you're probably never gonna be healthy, right? If you're sitting on that 4 hours a day, that will probably prevent you from being healthy. It's that serious. So minimizing exposure is extremely important. Energy devices, we promote frequency tuning discs. Longevity has one as well. It's an EP2 pendant. I've got it on here somewhere. Here, there's multiple devices. There's devices that you can put on your phone. Talk to me or somebody else about any of these devices after. Again, we do sell many of them in the catalog, and there's other ones that can be used too. There's more complicated ones that you could build even, that act to counteract the negative frequencies that the Wi-Fi is putting out. They're machines that put out good frequencies. You've probably heard of salt lamps and stuff like that as well. They release negative ions into the air. It has a lot to do with this, reducing the exposure, reducing the stress on the body. Structured water is another one. I'm not talking about Kangen water here. We actually do have one in the company. Harmony Health is the company that we absorbed. They do make several energy devices. Fred Van Loo runs that. He's down in Dallas. One of the things that he created was structured water, unlike any other structured water that we know of. There's many structured waters out there. Water is supposed to be accepted into our cells at a certain structure. This is very deep level for a lot of people. You don't need to worry about the exact specifics of it, but it's worth looking into if you're interested in it. And by incorporating a structured water strategy into your life, this can be another thing where they were taking enough nutrients, they were avoiding the bad foods, they weren't getting their result. Why? Add the structured water into it. It changes the actual cellular structure of your cells and how you accept water and accept nutrients and get rid of oxygen and get rid of waste. And we're not meant to drink tap water. Right? Water is naturally structured in nature. We can mimic that with technology. We can do that as well. And when we talk about water filters, very soon I will switch to a time where I'm recommending only structured water as part of the water filter. Right now it's just reverse osmosis, but I think it matters so much that will soon become part of my message. And I probably will represent Kangen for it because they're the only ones that I know who commercially do it well and consistently, and the machines don't break after 4 months. Shields, you can shield things. I just mentioned we shielded our smart meter the best we can. Any foil, any metal sheet of any kind will shield anything. Some big sources that people don't realize about, the refrigerator, when you hear it going, that compressor going, huge bubble of radiation around it. So any major source that you can identify in your direct environment should be shielded as much as you can. There's EMF protecting paint and everything like that, but to me it's better just to target it, find the source and target it and shield it. And then participate in there because this is something that's also a political problem. If there's radiation all over the place, we need to actually address this on a level that's more than just you and your house and your phone. We need to talk about this and we need to redesign certain aspects of our society because this will actually kill us. You know, people talk about 5G is gonna kill us all. It's not true, 5G's been out for 15 years, but I don't know about 6G, right? I don't know about how much stronger these phones can get and how much more radiation stress we can actually tolerate. And by the way, again, this is why we get better and better results on this category as time goes on, because radiation is only increasing. So people only feel better and better when we get rid of it. So people, you can't wing it, right? There's a lot of people, again, we get in trouble for making it look too easy. I think Ben's particularly guilty of this. We can make it look too easy. We can make it sound too easy. And it's actually not. It can be easy, it can be simple, but getting your head around it and gaining the discipline to do this in a committed way, it's not easy at all. And then rewriting our society, you know, in our food production and distribution and radiation, it's going to take a lot of involvement. It's going to take a lot of commitment from a lot of people for a long time, right? So we like to just get people on the proper mindset. People think that they're going to get 100% better next week. It's not always like that. I was transformed in 6 days flat. All my diseases were gone in 6 days flat. It's not always like that. Right? And for me, it was only because I had done the other pieces first. And people are lucky if they get an amazing result within 30, 60, 90 days. And we're used to saying, give us 90 days. And even now, I try and reevaluate that to like, look, you're here for life. It's not a 90-day commitment. This is a lifetime commitment. You're gonna be healthy or you're gonna be a civilian and you're gonna die of diabetes or heart disease or something like that if you don't take control and be serious about it. And this is, again, we're talking about, there's always an excuse, there's always a birthday, there's always an event, there's always some reason that you can give yourself to not be strict on whatever it is you need to do. And this is for our stress to, getting massages. I'm sure there's a million reasons not to do it. Right? There's a million excuses not to do it, not to pay for whatever you need to pay for, not to physically put it in your body. And people won't fall off the stump and get this. You won't fall off the stump and become healthy. A lot of people are lucky where they haven't fallen off yet, but gaining health from a position of bad health is not an accident, and it never will be. It can't be forced. I think that might be my whole presentation. So that's the gist of it. And we try and make it simple, but people always have complicated questions and stuff too, so we're going in day after day on Instagram mainly. We're live right now, and we call it health kindergarten class, basically, because we have to cover the basics over and over and over and over and over. And Ben was talking about overthinkitis. We got a ton of those people, right? They're researchers and they know everything about everything, and they're not doing the basics. And if they were doing the basics, they'd be thriving. And it can be that simple. And I appreciate you all being here. Thank you very much, Bob. Do you have any questions?
No. Can you talk a little bit more about the structured water? Or?
Structured water, when water is going over a waterfall, when it's going over rocks, and for our purposes, when it's deep in the ocean, it has a certain structure in it. Has anybody heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto? The Emotions of Water?
Oh, yeah.
He's a Japanese researcher, essentially, and there's a lot of controversy about this, but he essentially said nice things to this glass of water and then ignored one, and said bad things to another glass of water. And he would freeze those water molecules, those droplets, rapidly and take a picture of them. And the ones that he was mean to showed an ugly structure. It was messed up, like taking a handful of clay and throwing it at a wall. Whereas the nice ones that he said love to, or he put the word love on it, and we put energy into words, right? Words become powerful because of the energy that we put into it. This is deep level, this is beyond nutrition, but it's important. That's why we put all the mind, body, soul in this. Spirituality is very important. And so the love ones would freeze as beautiful snowflakes, basically. And when you extrapolate that, you realize that 70% of our body is water or more. And the structure of the water does matter. And actually this goes into mindfulness and stuff too, that if you're thinking crappy thoughts all the time, you will have a crappy body no matter what, right? No matter what. Because every cell in your body is based on water. And that structure of those water molecules, that determines how nutrients are used and how efficiently your whole system will work. So with our structured water, and the reason why it's better than other ones on the market is because it's matched the structure of water at the bottom of the ocean. So our bodies accept it very well. You need a very, very tiny little bit of it. It's increased now because the radiation stress has increased, but it used to be 1 teaspoon once an hour for 30 days. Now it's 1 teaspoon every 30 minutes for 30 days to increase your cellular energy.
Are you aware of the acidification of water by Denver?
The water supply, the drinking supply?
Yeah.
I'm not aware.
Yeah,
We don't live in
they're
Colorado.
upping the alkalinity, of the water to help prevent deterioration of the lead pipes.
It's a good idea.
They're going from 7.9 to 8.88, I think.
It's a good idea. And water, when it's structured properly, it's naturally alkaline. Water is naturally
Is that
alkaline.
going to have negative effects?
On the health?
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Wallach doesn't like alkaline water because it reduces the pH of the stomach, right? And that's especially going to be around meals. But we're such huge salt proponents that we're adding salt to everything. And in our world, you don't find pure water. There's no such thing as pure water. Water is a very hungry molecule. It will bond with everything. Again, I know this is beyond nutrition, but if you do understand this level of things, it will help. Water is going to bond with all kinds of things. You'll never find H2O in nature, right? So just pure this is why we don't recommend pure distilled structured water or anything like that, because it's going to want to bond with everything. As soon as it gets in your body, it's going to start bonding with things, especially the free hydrogen molecules that are in the acid. It's just very reactive. Oxygen is a very reactive molecule. So neutralizing it with minerals or with salt is how it would naturally be anyways. Spring water has all kinds of nutrients and it has all kinds of minerals in it as well. Some of them are very important, like sulfur, all the connective tissue components you hear about, like glucosamine sulfate, chondroitin, MSM. These are all sulfur compounds, and sulfur is one of the very important ones in the joints. And it's no wonder that people up in the north where we are who grew up on well water are doing a lot better. And they're having kids that are freaking 6'7", big lumberjack. It has a lot to do with water. Right? And that water will be structured as well, for the most part.
You have a mineral filter that you recommend?
One to filter out minerals?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the brand that we use.
If you do a reverse osmosis, you should put the minerals back in after the fact.
Yep. We're from the great state of Canada, so what's available on our market is a little bit different than this market. Our filter at home does run it through a final stage of coconut husk, basically, and that remineralizes the water. Or else it's too clean, right? It's stripped bare, basically. And that matters for the energy as well. Structured water has an energy to it that's much more than dead water, tap water, or even distilled water without anything done to it. Any other questions?
Does it matter what time of the day you do this?
First thing in the morning is probably going to be great, but since it's very concentrated, it can make you feel nauseous, basically.
Yeah,
So that's happened to you?
I've been doing it at night, but is there anything wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. When it comes to us, like, supplements are better absorbed with food, kind of as a general rule. As soon as you start thinking about food, your body starts producing gastric juices, and that you need those juices to actually absorb things the best that you can. But something's always better than nothing, right? So we're talking about excuses. A lot of people can give themselves excuses like, oh, okay, well, I missed it with a meal, so I'll do it tomorrow, right? It's getting it in the body, period, is the most important thing. So I don't personally care when it's done. If you do it first thing in the morning, you get it knocked off. It's good, you're done, right? But it does make a lot of people nauseous. If that is you, and that's with any concentrated mineral supplement or anything, and tangy tangerine especially, I've seen it done. It happens to myself as well. I don't wake up and put supplements in my body first. I put salted water in the body first. Salted water. And if you're ever feeling nauseous, usually salt water is the cure, the immediate cure. It's gonna have a lot to do with those B vitamins and stuff too, but salt is kind of the foundation that I find a lot of people are missing.
What kind of salt?
Yeah.
Any salt will work, right? The sodium chloride, even table salt, will give your body what it needs in terms of sodium and chloride. We're not recommending table salt, but if I forget my salt shaker, I'm using the table salt at a restaurant because it's that important. You need sodium for one, but chloride more importantly for your stomach acid. And then lack of stomach acid has a lot to do with the nausea, in my opinion. And a glass of salt water can just knock it out very quick. We knocked a lot of health problems out by just telling people to drink a glass of salt water, by the way. We call it a salt flush. Apparently it started with a miscommunication between Ben, as he told us not to do that amount that we do, and we did it anyways. Both me and my partner at the time, we felt amazing from it. Now we tell other people to do it, and when we came back and told Ben, this is what we've been doing with people, he said, that's way too much. But actually, we get such incredible results, and I think it was because of the accident that we just took it to the next level, told people to drink 3 heaping tablespoons of salt in a glass of salt water. And it can change their life. It can change their life. I've seen people drink 4 of those in a row.
How does it change your life? Like, what does it do?
If you, okay, so with the salt, I won't spend too much time on it, I want to get Taylor up here, but if you're salt deficient, you will be able to drink more and more salt. The more deficient you are, the more you'll be able to drink. If we made that concoction right now, with 3 heaping tablespoons of salt in it, I would take a sip and I would probably say, done. Andrew probably take a sip, done. Someone in here who, like, you can see people too, you see all shriveled up people and everything. We'd call them out at the store. We'd see them walking by with their cane, they take forever to walk by us. We'd say, hey, get in here, and we'd give them a glass of salt water. And you can see people stand upright, like, in moments. You can see, like, you probably know someone who's extremely pale, and another, anemia. What's anemia caused by it? Anemia needs iron needs a strong stomach acid to be absorbed. You can take all the iron you want. See people that go in for iron shots, they feel great for 2 hours, right? Well, it goes right into their blood. That's 100% absorption, 100% bioavailability. And if they put it through their body, and it's not matched, it doesn't hit a strong stomach acid, you will not absorb the iron. Or the cofactors for the iron, the vitamin C, etc. Right? It all does work together. Sodium and chloride are both essential nutrients. In my opinion, they're the 2 most important ones, because if you don't have those ones, you're not gonna work properly. If you take a drug to lower your stomach acid, we can't help you, sorry. That's what we tell people, you need to get off that drug, or we can't help you. God can't help you, no one can help you without stomach acid. You can't inject all your nutrients, you can't inject all your proteins. In fact, you'll get very sick if you inject proteins. But so that glass of salt water, if you can drink the whole thing, that means you're massively chronically dehydrated of salt and water, and you need salt to be hydrated properly. So if you can drink 4 of them, it'll change your life. If people can drink, and this is gastroparesis, this is people who come and they show up and they're foaming out and they can't digest properly. And, you know, all kinds of things, major digestive problems or whatever, major anemia, these types of things. Salt water, they can usually drink a ridiculous amount, you wouldn't believe how much. And then the instruction is just to use salt on your food every day. And you can feel it, you can feel your day-to-day needs change. People say, how much salt do I need? You need a lot. But it also depends on you, and the amount that you need today is different than the amount that you need tomorrow. If you go to the gym today, you need more. If you go out into the heat and you sweat more, you need more. You stay up later, you need more. right? And everybody should be able to gauge their salt needs like an animal does with a salt block. That's part of the reason we do the salt flush, because it's such a shock that it teaches you to actually recognize your salt needs on a much more acute level. And we're talking the difference between 3 shakes in your water, or coffee or tea, or 4 shakes, right, or 2 shakes. You should be able to know this. Like, you won't even need to think about it. Your body will automatically put more into it, you will know it. And this is how we should use salt. I believe we've said enough about salt, but we talk a ton about it, because if it's missing, you're done. Any other questions, quickly? Appreciate you all. Make sure to check out our food YouTube channel called Notice Foods. This is 100% Dr. Wallach approved. And the chef that is preparing the food here and teaching you how to follow Dr. Wallach's food guidelines and Dr. Glidden's food guidelines. He's an industry professional, over 22 years experience and a college diploma to back it up. And we do have experienced cooks and bakers as well, working on content for the YouTube channel Notice Foods and the Instagram channel Notice Foods. It's 100% gluten-free, oil-free, all the stuff about burning fats and all of the rules that you would need to know or follow. We're here to teach it to you here, as well as give you tons of ideas for recipes, individual dishes, and meals. Of course, in the near future, we do have a cookbook coming out. Stay tuned for it. Hey all you Dr. Wallach supporters and longevity fans out there. Most of you at some point will have come up against this Nutri-Smart bashing of Dr. Wallach. There are a few articles that are published specifically to tarnish Dr. Wallach and his message. And I have actually written this whole book. This was a few years ago. I wrote a full-length book in rebuttal to these vicious attacks on Dr. Wallach. I believe every objection that you are going to encounter in the field is addressed in this book. It's absolutely a great resource for you to have as a distributor. And if you do ever have anybody coming up to you saying, I heard what you said about Dr. Wallach and I was going to look into some of his vitamins, but I came up against this article on the internet, Nutri-Smart article is probably the one they read. So it's a great deal, guys. I put it up very cheap. It's just another tool in our toolbox. And the Amazon link is in the description of this video.